Let's look at the hate list here, guys. We start with DeAndre Swift. Listen to this laundry list of bad nuggets here, Matthew. He's not scored double-digit fantasy points since week 11 in 4 of his last 5 games. He's been held to under 40 rushing yards. Oh, and in those 5 games, Matthew, he hasn't scored a touchdown.
Yeah, none of that's good, Connor. That's the opposite of good. That's hashtag bad. By the way, he's also not involved. And you're like, well, if he's not scoring touchdowns, is he involved in the passing game? And the answer is no. 7 straight games now with a target share below 9%. He's averaging basically 2 targets a game. Outside my top 20 tonight in a game in which the Bears are underdogs to Seattle.
I mean, Lawrence, look at this stat line here. It's nothing pretty for Swift. And to be fair, it's not like he's completely written off in the game plan. It's just not able to do much with it.
Yeah, I actually thought he could bounce back last week against the Lions defense, who, they're getting hurt more and more every week. They're losing guys in the front 7, which is pivotal. So I figured, hey, maybe and then you're looking at what James Cook did to them the week prior. I'm like, maybe DeAndre Swift could get back. He had 19 carries for 79 yards the week prior, and it just didn't happen. Like Matthew said, in these type of situations, you're hoping a guy like Swift, who can catch the ball out of the backfield, could get you some fantasy production there, but it's just not happening. He had a good little stretch in the middle of the season where he was really coming on, but since week 10, he's been outside the top 24 running backs, and you wouldn't feel confident about this about anybody. I would even say if this was against the Panthers, who allow the most running backs, the most points to running backs, you would feel like, man, it's still a little shaky, so can't ride with Swift this week.
And Lawrence, we talked about Tajay Spears on others receiving votes for the love list. His teammate, his companion in that backfield, Tony Pollard, he makes the hate list. He's been dealing with an injury. And the bottom line is right now, Tajay Spears has outsnapped him in each of the past 2 games. I'm sure some of this is due to injury, but that's something that counts in fantasy right now.
Yeah, and it's not like Tajay Spears is doing it crazy in the run game. He's got 32 rushing yards in his last 2 games, but he's got 3 touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. He's getting a lot of work in the receiving game. But then you look at the fact that this game between the Titans and the Jaguars, 39.5 over under, Connor. That's the second lowest of all of the week 17 games. So you're not really thinking that, we're going to get a lot of fantasy production out of this game outside of guys like Brian Thomas Jr., maybe Calvin Ridley if Mason Rudolph go deep with him a couple of times. But you're looking at Tajay Spears, more so than Pollard with that injury.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Look, I mean, here's the other concern, right? It's a game that we're not expecting a ton of points to be scored, right? It's a 39.5 over under. It's the second lowest on the week 17 slate. Titans have a bottom 7 implied team total, by the way. And for all the problems that the Jaguars have over the last month, they're actually top 12 in success rate against running back carries. Like, they actually play pretty decent run defense as well. So again, a lot of the reasons why I like Tajay Spears are the reasons that I don't like Tony Pollard this week. He's outside my top 20. As long as we're talking about this game, though, very quickly, I mentioned Tank Bigsby, or Connor, you did, that Tank Bigsby makes other receiving vote. We didn't really talk about that. It's just worth noting that Tennessee over the last month has allowed the most running back rushing touchdowns in the NFL. They're tied for the most. So we do like Bigsby, who's on the right side of that timeshare between him and Travis Etienne.
Also on the hate list here, Matthew, Rico Dowdle. Now, the good news for Rico Dowdle, something we've discussed a lot that's made him fantasy relevant during the stretch here, is that in his last 5 games, he's averaging over 19 carries in those games. The problem is it's hard to expect that to be effective this week because over the past 4 weeks, the Eagles are allowing a league low 3.2 yards per carry.
Yeah, I mean, look, he doesn't really get a lot of opportunities in close. Now, it's gotten better recently as his workload has increased, but this entire year, Rico Dowdle has 6 goal-to-go rushing attempts. 6. There are 45 different running backs in the NFL with more goal line rush attempts than Rico Dowdle. And we know how good this defensive line is for the Philadelphia Eagles, right? They allow the 3rd fewest fantasy points to opposing running backs over the last 4 weeks. And so Dowdle, who's not really involved in the passing game as much as we hoped he would. Like, he sort of had that one breakout game. And you're like, oh, is he going to be a big part of the passing game? Well, no. Week 10 was the last time he got a double-digit target share. Cooper Rush is actually looking more comfortable in this offense. He's throwing it down the field more, which is good for the Cowboys offense overall. Not great for Rico Dowdle, who I think is a risky flex play. I will say I'll feel better about Dowdle's prospects if Kenny Pickett is starting and Jalen Hurts is out, because I just think the Cowboys will be more competitive in this game and they'll be able to run it and control the clock more. But if Hurts is playing in this game a week after the Eagles lost that heartbreaker to the Commanders, I think Philadelphia has their way with the Cowboys.
Yeah, the thing about Rico Dowdle, you saw him he had been on a roll. He had 3 weeks where he had career high rushing yards every week. He ran into Tampa Bay. They're a good run defense, more so than they are on the pass defense. He had his lowest rushing yards total in 6 games, only had 23 yards. And then, Matthew, you alluded to this, he couldn't cash in on the goal line touchdown. They gave it to Ezekiel Elliott, who had barely played the whole game. So now you're going from Tampa Bay, who's one good run defense. Now you got an even better one in the Philadelphia Eagles, who have just a better defense overall. So when the matchup is not in Rico Dowdle's favor, I don't like him in my lineups as much as those previous weeks. It's like, because he was getting the volume, because he was getting, mid-level to good matchups, you loved putting him in there in your flex spot, but now you just can't feel that great about it. And I'm with you, Matthew, on the Kenny Pickett and Jalen Hurts, because with Jalen Hurts, you expect the Eagles to possess the ball a little more. So in that case, that's why, Rico Dowdle's on the hate list this week.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Rotoworld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.